Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Watch me take on the challenge to make a basic tower building from Age of Empires 2. So let's go. Okay, so I'm using cardboard sheet and some copy stirrers to build the basic form of the tower, simply making an octagonal tube in a way to build everything on and around it. I didn't measure right and it ended up being a bit unevenly bent, but crossed my fingers so it wouldn't look too bad or not uneven once completed. Closed the bottom and top side and then moved on to make the only door this thing has. For that I used cardboard and copy stair cuts as usual. And completed that section with its separate roof extension, or I don't know, whatever it would be called. Next, I cut off some chopsticks to make the lumber work around the building while trying to stay loyal to the original building from the game. Even though it almost wouldn't be visible, I still wanted a set of stairs or ladder right in the middle of it. For the floor work, I used more copy stairs. I first covered the sides with longer cuts, then worked my way to complete the rest of the surface with them. Sanded off the edges and the surface so the paint stick better on it later on. Looking at my reference, I realized I forgot to add some boxy shaped wooden support bits. I cut off half centimeter long bits from leftover plywood pieces and glued them where I think they're supposed to be. Now, I'm not a structural engineer or something like that, so I'm sorry if it doesn't make sense. I just try to replicate what I see in front of me. Next, I used thick skewers to start working on the support beams. These were especially hard to keep straight up, so I used random objects for these to lean on while their glues are dried. Sticking with the original design, I filled in between the beams with more stair cuts instead of a brick or stone look. Once they are solid, I closed it off with another octagonal cardboard cut. Noticing my problematic upstairs neighbors are gone, I took my time to make some noise. So I took a break from completing its roof and grinded off the miscalculated cuts, bits, and uneven areas with Dremel sanding bit in the middle of the night. Added more stair cuts to cover some gaps here and there. Cut off and glued some chopstick bits to add more supporting lumber look. I measured, that's kind of funny when I say it to myself, well, I measured the height of the roof and cut off a plastic tube. Tried to center it as best as possible. Not the best, since I mentioned before I made a bad job with the tower base and it's not evenly glued, so the whole structure rose up asymmetrically. Anyway, glued this tube as close to the center as possible so I could cover up the roof with triangular cardboard cuts. Once that's done, I covered the entire roof with cardboard and paper cut shingles, as I always do with my creations. It's a method I guess I just can't give up and stick with easier solutions to shingle problem. It's the glue high, I guess, that draws me to it. Anyway, after an entire evening spent with glue high and watery eyes, I completed the tower. I was going to say, but no. For reasons beyond me, I don't have the footage where I laid all the stonework or even the painting process for this. Either I completely forgot to record them, or most likely lost them during transferring from camera to my computer, or deleted the wrong footage, I don't really know. I added arrows stuck on the sides and on the door to depict as if this was recently attacked. Working on creating some overall paint detailing with various dry brushes to the roof and the walls, as well as a couple of layers of washes and filters. So it ended up looking like this. Again, sorry for the loss of footage, but maybe it's for the best, as I didn't really do anything special when it comes to painting this, didn't use any particular colors or techniques beyond my usual ones, and so I didn't waste your time, I suppose. As for the figures for this diorama, I'm using these Arab warriors set. I decided them to be the attacking force. And as for the defenders, I'm using my old Miniart's Burgondian knights and archers. After separating them from their bases, I cleaned off as much mold lines and flashes as possible. As I complained many times before, the Miniart figures from this set is in horrible quality. And frankly, I'm trying to use them all as fast as possible. I just don't like wasting stuff, so can't say the same for this Italeri's Arab warrior set. It's close to perfect in quality, especially considering this is in 7-second scale. After attaching their pegs, I primed them with Vallejo Grey Primer as usual. Then painted the defending knights and archers with red and reddish tones. For some reason, I attribute reddish tones to the European type of figures. As for the attacking Arab figures, I tried to stick with neutral colors like sand, dark sand, cork brown and such. Didn't really feel like giving them a specific color. In addition to specific colors, I mixed so many paints on the way, I don't exactly remember what I used on what section of the figures. For the base, I cut up a plywood section 30 cm in diameter and 2 cm thick styrofoam. Glued them together, placed the tower right in the middle of it and marked its sides on the base. Then I started to carve the base in order to make the landscape look a bit uneven and perhaps natural compared to how flat it would look if I didn't do so. I only kept the road leading up to this elevated for some reason. Then I laid some stonework over it. Using the leftover styrofoam chunks, I made some rocks sticking out of the ground. I placed them with hot glue gun. I normally hate it, but I was in a bit of a rush. Painted the entire thing with black craft paint. Then painted the road stones with various tones of greenish gray color I randomly mixed. Painted the rocks with similar grey tones over a couple of coats. Painted a mud-like color to the bottom parts of the rocks. Then followed up with a watered down light green for these to blend in with the grass I will apply later. Before the grass, I covered the entire base with PVA glue. And then covered it up with homemade ground flock. It's actually dried coffee grounds mixed with some wood dust. Once it fully dried, I applied PVA glue again here and there and then applied the grass over it. While waiting for it to dry, I started making some spikes for defensive purposes. I cut off 4 to 5 cm long pieces from skewers, sharpened their edges, applied CA glue and dunked them in baking soda to create some gritty bark-like texture on them. Then painted them with wood grain and their tips with natural grain colors. Gave them a bit of a dry brush with old wood color. I think it's a nice detail to have, especially considering it took no more than 20 minutes to make them all. Right after the spikes, I started to bring everything together, starting with the tower itself. I also added some vine-like foliage on one side as how it's depicted in the reference image. Added clumps of foliage here and there around the rocks at the base of the tower and such to make the scene look more interesting and more natural, I suppose. Placed the spikes randomly only other than the ones facing the road, and made sure to sprinkle some ground foliage to cover the excess PVA glue around them. Took me a while to find the right placement for the slain horse and its rider. Made sure to add more foliage around it to cover the spots where its legs and such didn't meet the ground. As for the rider, since I didn't modify its legs, I had to cover that gap with foliage. And then, to give an impression he crawled or limped from his horse, I added a trail of blood. Placed his opponent right in front of him, just about to land the killing blow. Had leftover blood paint on the tray and dabbed some of the spike steps with it. Added the rider charging towards the previous figure, just maybe would save his fallen comrade. Then another one just about to thrust him with a spear. Placed the mounted archer aiming toward the spear-wielding figure. By this time it ended up being almost like a Mexican standoff. Anyway, added the heavy cavalry in a charging position towards the first figure. Added another one to attack him with a spear. I doubt it would penetrate the armor though. Then finally, camel riding archer aiming towards the last one. Man, it's been a long explanation. Finally, I placed the last three figures up in the tower, one blowing the horn, maybe asking for help or something, and two crossbowmen, one ready to fire and another prepping his weapon to shoot. That's all for this video. I hope you liked it and found what you watched useful or inspiring for your projects. Let me know what you think about it in the comments and make sure to share your ideas for future builds. Or let me know if there are specific buildings from Age of Empires you want me to build. This is the 7th project from the game. I am more interested of the European style of structures, I think. So if you want me to build larger buildings like castles and such, or smaller standalone buildings from the game, let me know. Again, I hope you liked it. If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.